I'm Josh, 34, divorced dad of two boys, Eli, 9, and Lucas, 7. Life hasn't exactly gone how I pictured it, but I've made peace with that. I work as a mechanic at a local auto shop and rent a modest 2-bedroom apartment just outside of town. My boys stay with me every other weekend and for long stretches during holidays. They're my whole world. We play chess, watch old superhero cartoons, and every now and then, I let them stay up late and eat popcorn on the couch. It's not glamorous, but it's ours. My family, on the other hand, is complicated. My mom's always had a soft spot for my younger sister, Tessa, golden child, straight A's, soccer scholarships, the whole shebang. She's 4 years younger than me and married to this guy named Brent who works in finance and walks around like he invented money. They've got 3 kids under 10, a house in the suburbs, and the kind of curated Instagram life that looks perfect from the outside. My mom, obsessed. Every photo Tessa posts gets shared in the family group chat. Every minor achievement. Landon learned to tie his shoes. Gets the kind of praise usually reserved for Nobel Prize winners. Me? I get polite nods, if that. When I told her Eli won a regional chess tournament last spring, she said, "Oh, that's nice," and went back to talking about Tessa's family trip to Aruba. I've gotten used to it mostly. I learned a long time ago not to expect too much when it comes to family. Still, every now and then, I catch myself hoping things will be different. That she'll see my boys, really see them, for who they are. Which brings me to 3 days before Christmas. I was in the kitchen making boxed mac and cheese for the boys when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mom. "Hey, what do Eli and Lucas want for Christmas this year?" Just curious. My heart actually did a little stutter step. She never asks that. Usually, she buys generic stuff, clothes that don't fit, board games with missing pieces, or sometimes nothing at all. But this felt like an olive branch. I read the message out loud, and the boys lit up like the tree we'd just decorated together the night before. "Can we really tell Grandma?" Eli asked, eyes wide. "Of course," I said. "Write her a letter. Or draw pictures. Whatever you want." They took it so seriously. Spent the entire evening at the kitchen table, heads bent in concentration. Eli drew a picture of a remote control helicopter and wrote a detailed list with bullet points. Lucas wanted a big Lego police station set and a Pikachu hoodie he saw at the mall. They even added little stars and smiley faces to their notes. I took photos of the letters and drawings, sent them to my mom with a little message. They had so much fun doing this. "Thanks for asking. It really means a lot." She replied with a thumbs up emoji. No words, just a thumbs up. But I told myself not to read into it. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she didn't know what to say. The point was, she asked. Christmas morning came, and we were all invited to her house. It was a tradition I'd skipped the last couple years. There was always some kind of drama, someone forgetting to get my boys gifts, or my ex being invited without telling me. But this year, I thought it might be different. I really did. We got up early, and I helped the boys into their little sweaters and jeans. They were practically vibrating with excitement. Eli kept asking, "Do you think Grandma got the helicopter?" Lucas was more quiet, but he clutched a drawing he made for her the night before, a big smiley stick figure version of her holding hands with both of them. When we walked into her house, the smell of cinnamon and pine hit me like a wave. Everything looked perfect. Big tree in the corner, fireplace crackling, a mountain of gifts wrapped in metallic paper spilling into the living room. Tessa and Brent were already there with their kids, who were tearing into their gifts like they were competing in a race. We stood awkwardly in the doorway for a moment before my mom noticed us. "Oh, good. You made it," she said, waving us in. No hugs. No Merry Christmas. Just a quick glance at the clock like we were late. The boys hovered near the tree, eyes wide. I scanned the tags. Most said to Landon, to Avery, to Bella, Tessa's kids. A few had no names at all. I found one that said Josh and handed it to myself with a sarcastic little grin. It was a candle. Vanilla. I don't even like candles. "Where are mine?" Eli whispered. I tried to smile. "They're probably behind the tree," I said, even though I didn't see anything. But there was nothing. Not one gift. Not a hoodie. Not a Lego set. Not even a stocking stuffer. My mom didn't even acknowledge their letters. Then I saw it. A remote control helicopter, just like the one Eli had drawn, being opened by Landon. He screamed with joy, and my mom clapped like he'd won the lottery. "Just what you wanted," she said, beaming. Lucas's face fell as Bella ripped into a Pikachu hoodie. She held it up and said, "What's this?" "I don't like yellow," and tossed it aside. I sat there, frozen. The boys weren't crying. Not yet. They just looked confused, betrayed. I wanted to say something. Wanted to stand up, demand an explanation. But my throat felt like it was closing up. I locked eyes with my mom across the room, and she looked away. Not guilty, just dismissive. So I stood up, took the boys' hands. "Come on," I said. "We're heading home." "Already?" Tessa asked, her voice laced with fake surprise. "But we haven't even had brunch." I didn't answer. I just walked out. No yelling. No dramatic speech. Just silence. The boys didn't say anything in the car. Not for a long time. Then Lucas whispered, "Did Grandma forget us?" I didn't know how to answer that. That night, after I put them to bed, I sat alone in the living room with a beer in my hand and the TV off. My phone buzzed around 11 p.m. A voice message. From my grandpa. I didn't even know he knew how to send voice messages. I pressed play. His voice crackled through the speaker, soft but steady. "Josh, I heard what happened. I want you to know something. Your dad would have been proud of you today. You walked out with your dignity, and you didn't let them see you break. I see you. I always have. You're a good man. And those boys of yours? They've got a real father." I've listened to that message probably 100 times since then. Still can't make it through without tearing up. But that was just the beginning. Because what happened next? That's when things really started to unravel. After that Christmas, something in me cracked. Not in a loud, breaking glass sort of way, but like a quiet splinter in the back of my mind that kept digging deeper every time I tried to pretend it wasn't there. I didn't confront anyone. Didn't send angry texts. Didn't post a cryptic status update or block my mom. I just withdrew. I focused on my boys, on work, on our little apartment that smelled like cinnamon from the candles I bought myself after tossing the vanilla one in the trash. The boys didn't talk much about that day, but the air between us felt heavier, like they'd added a new file to their emotional archives. One labeled, "Don't expect too much." I hated that. I started dodging family get-togethers. Skipped Easter. Claimed I had to work over Memorial Day. When my mom texted in June asking if I was coming to Landon's birthday party, I said, "Sorry, we've got plans." Which wasn't a lie. I planned to take the boys fishing and cook burgers on our little rusty grill in the backyard. Grandpa, though, he kept calling. He'd leave voicemails every couple weeks, mostly short, always kind. "Heard it might rain this weekend. Don't forget to cover the grill." Or, "Just finished rereading that book you gave me last Christmas. You've got good taste, kid." I never said much back, but I listened. Always. Then came fall. Leaves turning gold. School routines. My weekends with the boys got shorter thanks to sports schedules and school projects, but I held on to them like gold. We carved pumpkins. I let them cover the walls in fake spiderwebs for Halloween. I even took them to a corn maze and pretended I wasn't tired even after walking in circles for an hour. Then, November. My mom sent out a group message. "Thanksgiving is at our house again this year. Noon. Let me know what you're bringing." I didn't answer. She followed up a few days later with a private message. "Josh, it's been almost a year. The kids miss their cousins. Can we try again?" I stared at that message for a long time. Can we try again? Like I was the one who messed it all up. Like I was the one who handed gifts to the wrong kids on purpose. I didn't reply. Then Grandpa called. This time I picked up. "Hey," I said, voice low. "Hey yourself," he replied. "Listen, I know things haven't been fair, but I'd sure like to see my great-grandsons this Thanksgiving. Can you make it?" For me, I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. I ended up caving. I told the boys we were going to Thanksgiving dinner at Grandma's. Eli flinched. Lucas asked if they had to bring anything. I said nope, just your sweet selves. We arrived 10 minutes early, holding a pumpkin pie I picked up from the grocery store. I even dressed up a bit, ironed shirt, clean jeans, brushed hair. Trying. Hoping maybe. The house was full when we got there. Tessa's family, of course. Brent's parents. Even my cousin Melanie from out of state. People I hadn't seen in years. My mom acted surprised to see us, but not in a warm way. In the kind of way someone does when they didn't think you'd show up and now their plans are slightly inconvenienced. She air-kissed me. Gave the boys a quick hug. "There's room at the kids' table," she said, pointing to a small folding table off to the side. I nodded, set the pie down, and helped the boys with their coats. Dinner was fine. Awkward. Loud. Full of clinking silverware and forced small talk. Every time I tried to join a conversation, Someone talked over me or changed the subject. At one point, I heard Tessa say to Brent, "I'm surprised he even showed up. He's been so distant lately. Probably still sulking over last year." Sulking. That word hit me like ice water. After dessert, everyone crowded into the living room to watch football. The kids ran off to play in the basement. I was about to grab my coat when Grandpa walked in, grinning. "There's my boy," he said. We sat in the den while everyone else watched the game. He pulled a small envelope from his coat pocket and handed it to me. "What's this?" "Just something I've been working on. You'll understand when you open it. But maybe wait until you get home." I nodded slowly. He leaned in closer. "You're a good dad, Josh. Don't let them make you feel small for it." I almost cried right then and there. But what happened next? That's when the floor really fell out from under me. Christmas was coming again. And despite everything that happened the year before, the boys, bless their hearts, still wanted to try. They wrote new letters. This time, they taped them to the fridge and waited for Grandma to ask. She never did. 2 weeks before Christmas, I got a group text from Tessa. "Hey guys, just wanted to let everyone know, we're hosting this year. Big Christmas brunch at our place. White Elephant Exchange. Bring a $25 gift. See you there." No mention of presents for the kids. No personal message to me. Just a blanket invite like we were all part of the same happy sitcom family. I was going to ignore it. But then my mom called. "Josh, I hope you'll come this year. The kids would love to see you." "The kids," I said. "Or my kids?" She hesitated. "All of them. Of course." That's when I should have said no. Should have drawn the line. But I didn't. I told myself maybe this year would be different. Maybe last year was a fluke. A miscommunication. Maybe I was being too sensitive. So I went. We showed up at Tessa's house on Christmas morning, the boys in matching sweaters they picked out themselves. I even let them each bring a little toy to show their cousins. We walked into chaos. Wrapping paper everywhere. Half the gifts already opened. Laughter echoing off the walls. My mom barely looked up. Tessa waved distractedly from the kitchen. There were no gifts for my boys. Again, I stood there frozen, watching Landon tear into a box of video games while Bella shrieked over her new bike. Eli turned to me, quiet. "It's happening again." Lucas gripped my hand so hard it hurt. I didn't make a scene. Not at first. I bent down and whispered, "Let's go." But then Tessa walked over, holding a mimosa. "You're leaving already? You just got here." I turned to her, tried to keep my voice level. "There are no gifts for my kids." Again, she blinked, fake innocence dripping off her. "Well, we agreed on a white elephant this year. Didn't you bring something?" "For the adults. But what about the children?" "Oh, come on, Josh. Don't make this a thing again. Your boys are old enough to understand that Christmas isn't just about presents." I felt my vision blur. Then my mom chimed in from the couch. "You're overreacting. If they wanted something special, you should have brought it yourself." That was it. The moment everything snapped. I looked around that room, at the pile of gifts, the smug faces, the absolute absence of shame, and I realized I had spent an entire year hoping for decency from people who saw my kids as afterthoughts, who saw me as nothing more than a moody, inconvenient reminder that the golden family wasn't quite so golden. I walked out. Again. But this time, not quietly. And when I got home, I opened the envelope Grandpa gave me. And what I found inside changed everything. When I opened that envelope Grandpa had slipped into my hand on Thanksgiving, I didn't know what to expect. A letter, maybe. Or some family photo he'd dug up from decades ago. But what I found inside stopped me cold. It was a handwritten note on yellowing paper, his handwriting, neat and careful, and beneath it, a photocopy of a legal document. The note read, "Josh, I never wanted to get involved in the mess, but I've watched too long from the sidelines. Your father would have wanted you to have this. I hope someday you'll understand why I waited." Gee. The document underneath was a notarized copy of an ownership transfer. A third of the family property, the old farmhouse, the adjoining 2-acre lot, and the barn that had stood for nearly a century, was in my name. It had been signed over by my dad before he passed away, nearly 15 years ago. Dated. Witnessed. Legal. I sat there, stunned. That property wasn't just sentimental. It was the crown jewel of our family. My mom had always talked about it like it belonged to her, and by extension, to Tessa. She rented the land out to a neighbor who grew organic produce and collected a nice check every season. She talked about it like some long-term investment for the family legacy. But according to the document in my hand, 1/3 of that land was mine. I didn't know what to do with that at first. It felt too big to process. I tucked the papers into a folder and shoved them in the back of my closet, like some relic I wasn't ready to look at yet. And in the weeks after Christmas, I hit a low I hadn't felt in years. Not because of the document, but because of the silence that followed. No one from the family checked in. No one apologized. No one asked why I left Christmas brunch without a word. My phone stayed quiet. The boys were quiet, too. Eli stopped bringing up family. Lucas asked if we were going to have our own Christmas next year, with just us and nobody else. I told him yes. And that's when I knew something had to change. I didn't want my boys growing up learning how to be invisible. So I started small. I cleaned out the apartment. Not just tidying, but a full purge. Old boxes, broken toys, clothes we never wore. It felt like shedding dead weight. I repainted the boys' room. Bought a small secondhand bookshelf and filled it with things they loved. Books about space, animal encyclopedias, graphic novels. Then I turned inward. I'd been stuck in that same job at the auto shop for almost 8 years. Decent pay, decent coworkers, but no real room to grow. And I'd been ignoring a side gig I used to love, fixing up junker motorcycles and flipping them online. So I pulled out an old Yamaha I'd bought at an estate sale 2 years ago and never touched. Stripped it down in the evenings. Watched YouTube tutorials. Spent what little extra I had on parts and tools. It took 2 months. But when I finally listed it, it sold within 3 days for a $2,000 profit. That was the first time in a while I felt something that wasn't anger or bitterness. It was pride. So I did it again. Bought another bike. Rebuilt it. Sold it. And I started building a little savings fund. Nothing major, but mine. I called it the garage jar. Meanwhile, the legal document kept tugging at the back of my mind. I finally brought it to an old friend from high school, Nick, who had gone on to become a lawyer. We met at a diner one rainy Thursday night. I slid the folder across the table, and he raised his eyebrows. "Where did you get this?" "My grandfather said my dad wanted me to have it." He read the whole thing twice. "Josh," he said slowly, "this is real. Legally binding. If this holds up, and it looks like it will, you own a third of that property. And if they've been collecting rent on it for years without distributing your share, then they owe me money? Quite possibly. A lot of it." I didn't know whether to laugh or feel sick. I went home and sat on the couch for a long time. The boys were already in bed, their bedroom door slightly ajar. I could hear Eli's soft breathing and the murmur of Lucas talking in his sleep. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about the money or the land. It was about them. About giving them something I never had. A family that didn't pretend they were invisible. I started documenting everything. Text messages, dates, names, the voice message from Grandpa. I printed it all out and put it in a binder labeled Property and Family History. It was part catharsis, part preparation, because deep down, I knew a confrontation was coming. In the meantime, I kept rebuilding. I applied for a loan and used it to lease a small garage space on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. Concrete floors, a busted vending machine, one flickering overhead light, but it was mine. I called it Rust and Revival. Word spread fast. Guys I knew from the shop sent me their side projects. Friends from high school dropped by to say hi and ended up bringing bikes. Even the local high school's auto club asked if they could volunteer a few Saturdays a month. Eli helped on weekends. He loved organizing tools. Lucas drew chalk murals on the sidewalk outside and told customers their motorcycles were sick. Every time I looked at them in that garage, I felt like I'd come up for air. Then came spring. I hadn't spoken to my mom or Tessa in nearly 3 months when I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was Brent. "Hey Josh, I don't know what kind of stuff Grandpa's been feeding you, but Tessa told me you've been asking around about the land. Listen, let's not make this into a thing, okay? The family has always taken care of that property. You've never been involved, so let's just leave it that way. Don't stir things up." I played the message twice. The first time, I was angry. The second time, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because he had no idea how far along I was already. I didn't respond. Instead, I filed a formal notice through Nick requesting a copy of all financial records related to the property over the last decade. Rent collected, repairs paid, profit distributions, everything. That's when the real fallout began. My mom called, left a voicemail so long the transcript got clipped. The beginning was all righteous indignation. How dare I question her? how hurt she was that I would dredge up legal documents. Then came the guilt. After all I've done for you. After all I've sacrificed. You know I'm just trying to hold the family together. Then Tessa. She texted. Really, Josh? Going after Mom's property? Do you need money that badly? That one stung more than I'd like to admit. But I didn't respond. I just kept working. Building. That summer, Rust and Revival became profitable. I hired a part-time assistant. Started a website. A biker magazine did a short feature on our custom rebuilds. And the boys? They started asking if they could invite friends to the garage. Eli built a go-kart out of scrap. Lucas started filming silly mechanic show videos on my phone. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't chasing approval. I was building a life. Quietly, stubbornly, brick by brick. But I knew it couldn't stay quiet forever. Because the property paperwork I filed, it triggered something big. A letter arrived in my mailbox one humid afternoon in July. Legal letterhead. My name in bold. Inside was a notice of intent. My mother was preparing to sell the property. All of it, including my share. When I pulled that envelope out of the mailbox and saw the legal letterhead, I already knew. I didn't need to open it to feel the gut punch coming. Something in me had been waiting for this moment, for the other shoe to drop, for the mask to come off completely. But even with all the signs, all the tension, all the history, seeing it in writing still knocked the wind out of me. Notice of intent to sell property. The phrasing was cold, formal. It outlined that the family land, the 2 acres, the farmhouse, the barn, was being prepped for sale. A developer had made an offer. My mother was named as the sole contact, listed as the acting authority over the property. But that's where things got interesting. At the bottom of the document was a small note in fine print. If you are a co-owner or beneficiary with legal claim, you may contest the sale within 30 days from the date of notice. 30 days. That's what I had. I sat on the steps outside the garage, staring at that letter for a long time. Eli was inside, sanding down an old gas tank. Lucas was on a skateboard, doing laps around the lot and yelling things like, "Watch out, citizen," at passing cars. They didn't know yet. I wasn't ready to explain it all. But I wasn't panicking. Not this time. Because I had something they didn't think I had. Receipts. Nick and I had been preparing for months. We'd already collected bank statements, documentation showing rental income from the land, and the original ownership document Grandpa gave me. We even had a paper trail showing that the income had gone into a private account under my mother's name, despite my legal claim to 1/3 of the land. It wasn't just shady. It was illegal. The next day, Nick filed a cease and desist to block the sale. That stopped everything cold. The developer, likely unaware of the family drama behind the scenes, backed out within the week. My mom didn't call me. She didn't even text. Tessa, however, did. You're unbelievable. Do you have any idea what this means for Mom? For all of us. That sale was going to pay off her debts. I didn't reply. Because the deeper we dug, the more I realized this wasn't just about inheritance or family land. My mom had been leveraging the property for years, using it as a bargaining chip, taking out private loans against it, pocketing rent without declaring it properly, and, according to Nick, possibly committing tax fraud without realizing it. It was a house of cards, and I had just pulled the bottom one out. But I wasn't looking to destroy anyone. Not yet. I didn't want revenge for the sake of revenge. I wanted accountability. I wanted someone, anyone, to admit what they did to me and to my kids wasn't just rude or forgetful. It was a pattern, a choice. So I started making my own plan. I wasn't going to fight this behind closed doors. I wanted every crack in the facade to be exposed in broad daylight. And the perfect opportunity? It practically fell into my lap. My cousin Melanie was getting married in September. Big wedding. Outdoor ceremony at the family farmhouse. My farmhouse. She didn't know about the ownership dispute, of course. I hadn't talked to her much, but she was one of the few people in the family who'd always been kind to me growing up. Sweet. A little naive. She sent me a polite message on Facebook asking if I was coming to the wedding. I asked where the wedding was being held. At your grandpa's old place, of course, she wrote. Tessa said it would be perfect. Oh, did she now? I told her I'd think about it. Then I forwarded the entire conversation to Nick. This is it, I told him. We're not just blocking a sale anymore. We're reclaiming the land. All of it. Nick was cautious. If you push now, you'll be forcing this into court. It'll be ugly. Public. They'll fight back. I know, I said. Good. So we escalated. Nick drafted a formal ownership claim backed by the original signed transfer from my father. It stated that due to years of mismanagement and financial abuse, I was not only entitled to my 1/3, but that I was pursuing either forced sale of the property to split proceeds or full control of my portion, including physical access to the land. In simpler terms, if they wanted to keep their share, they could pay me out. If not, I was going to exercise my right to use it. That's when the threats started. Tessa sent me a voice note. Her voice was shaking with rage. You're tearing this family apart. Over what? Some stupid legal document Grandpa dug up? You think this makes you important? You were never part of this, Josh. You checked out a long time ago. She wasn't wrong. I had checked out. But now I realized that was by design. They wanted me out. The quiet one. The one they could ignore. They made sure I stayed on the outside so they could keep everything that mattered on the inside. But I wasn't outside anymore. A week later, I drove out to the property. The driveway was overgrown. The barn still leaned a little to one side, the same way it had when I was a kid. The wind smelled like cut grass and wood smoke. I parked in front of the gate, unlocked it with the old key Grandpa once gave me in a dusty shoebox, and walked right in. That evening, I posted a photo of the barn on Instagram. No caption, just the barn. And the next morning, I got a visit. It was my mom. She pulled up in her car like she was driving onto enemy territory. No hello. No small talk. She just stood there, arms folded, and said, "You really think this is going to end well for you?" I looked her dead in the eye. "No, I think it's going to start well for my boys." She scoffed. "You don't know what you're doing." "Sure I do," I said. "I'm standing on my land. You just didn't think I'd ever figure it out." She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just turned and walked back to her car, slamming the door harder than necessary. I let her go. The next few weeks were tense. Rumors flew through the family grapevine. Tessa called around trying to get people to take her side. I heard from a mutual cousin that she told everyone I was mentally unstable and trying to steal from the family. But here's the thing about being the black sheep. No one expects you to play smart. No one sees it coming when you do. And I wasn't done yet. I started fixing up the barn, cleaned out the hayloft, cleared brush, put up new signs that read, "Private property, no trespassing." I filed for a business license to use the barn as an event space, my event space. And I made sure Melanie knew. When she called, confused, asking if the wedding was still happening there, I told her the truth. "Tessa never had permission to offer the property," I said gently. "But if you want to get married here, I'd be happy to host you. No charge. You've always been kind to me." There was a long silence. Then she said, "I don't want to get in the middle." "You don't have to," I replied. "But just know, I'm not in the middle anymore. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." The wedding was moved. Tessa was furious. I got another message from Brent, this time laced with veiled legal threats. Nick handled it. We were already preparing for the next step, because there was one last card I hadn't played. The financial records. Every dollar they made from my share of the land. Every check cashed. Every tax form skipped or altered. I had it all. And soon, so would the court. But I didn't want to strike just yet. Not until the time was perfect. And that time, it was coming. Because there was one more family gathering on the calendar. One last chance for them to pretend like nothing had changed. Grandpa's birthday. And this year, I had a surprise of my own. Grandpa's birthday was on a Sunday that year. Early October, the kind of crisp day where the sky is too blue and the leaves are just starting to catch fire. He was turning 91. Sharp as ever, still stubborn, still funny, still very much the center of the family, whether anyone admitted it or not. My mother planned a family brunch at her house, same as she always had. Potluck style. She sent out the invite 2 weeks early like nothing had happened. No mention of the lawsuit. No reference to the blocked property sale, or the cease and desist, or the wedding drama. It was like she hit reset on her entire memory and expected the rest of us to play along. I almost didn't go, but then Grandpa called me, personally, and asked if I would be there. "I want to see my boys," he said, voice gravelly but strong. "All 3 of you." So I said yes, but I didn't tell him what I had planned. That morning, I dressed up. Not flashy, just neat. Clean jeans, collared shirt, shine boots. I brought Eli and Lucas with me. They wore matching flannel button-ups they'd picked out themselves, still slightly too big. I let them help me carry a tray of warm cinnamon rolls we'd baked that morning. We showed up 5 minutes early. I was done being late for things I deserved to be part of. The living room was already full of people. Tessa and Brent, of course, standing near the kitchen like royalty greeting their guests. Brent had his arm around her, and when he saw me, his eyes narrowed ever so slightly. My mom was arranging coffee mugs like nothing had happened, and when she spotted me, her smile froze halfway into place. "Josh," she said. "You came." "I was invited," I replied, handing her the cinnamon rolls. The boys made a beeline for Grandpa, who was seated by the window in his recliner, wearing a cardigan and a smile so wide it softened every sharp edge I'd been carrying. He hugged them both, ruffled their hair, and looked up at me like he already knew what was coming. We all sat down to eat. There was small talk, tension just beneath the surface. Everyone trying to pretend. I didn't interrupt. Not yet. After brunch, as people were milling about, I pulled out a manila envelope from my coat pocket and walked to the center of the room. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "I've got something to share," I said. Heads turned. My mom's face tensed. Tessa looked annoyed. Brent smirked like he was already preparing to cut me off. I opened the envelope and pulled out 3 neatly stapled packets. "I've spent the last 8 months working with a legal team to confirm my ownership of the family property. According to this," I said, holding up the first packet, "I own 1/3 of the land. That includes the house, the barn, and the surrounding acres." Silence. You could hear the fridge humming. I held up the second packet. "According to this, for over 10 years, rent has been collected on my portion without my knowledge or consent. Those funds were funneled into a private account, Mom's. No distributions. No records shared. Just stolen income." Gasped this time. Someone dropped a fork. "And the third." I lifted the last packet. "This is the formal complaint being filed with the county court to demand either a full buyout of my share or the forced sale of the entire property. That includes retroactive compensation for all unpaid rent and interest. It's already signed and submitted." Brent stood up, red in the face. "You can't just—" "I can," I said. And I did. "And just so you know, the property has been reappraised. It's worth almost triple what it was 5 years ago. So you've been stealing from me and from my kids, while playing pretend family for years." My mom opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Tessa finally said, "You're tearing the family apart over money?" I turned to her. Calm. Cold. "No. I'm tearing down the illusion that you built a life on fairness and love. When my sons were left empty-handed 2 Christmases in a row, while your kids opened the presents they had wished for. That wasn't about money. That was about cruelty. And when you used my share of the family land to try and fund your lifestyle, that wasn't about inheritance. That was theft." Then I looked at Grandpa. "I'm sorry this is happening at your party, but I figured if there was one day to set the record straight, it should be the day we all come together to honor the man who never treated me like an outsider." His eyes welled up. He nodded, said softly, "About time." I walked over and handed him a single folded sheet of paper. "A letter. I wanted you to be the first to read this." He unfolded it, read in silence. When he finished, he wiped his eyes and handed it back. "I'm proud of you," he said. I turned to leave. But before I did, I looked back at my mom. "Don't contact me unless it's through legal counsel. This was your choice. You made it when you pretended I wasn't part of this family. I just finally agreed with you." Eli and Lucas followed me out the door without looking back. We got in the truck and drove. I didn't say much. Neither did they. But halfway home, Eli said, "Dad." "Yeah, that was kind of awesome." Lucas nodded solemnly, like in a movie. And that's when I realized they'd seen everything. They remembered every slight, every time they were left out, every time I told them to hold their heads high anyway. And now, they'd seen me do it. They'd seen me fight. The court ruled in my favor 3 months later. I was awarded not only my full share, but back payment of 8 years' worth of rental income, plus damages. My portion came out to just over $214,000. Enough to buy a house outright. So I did. Not a mansion. Nothing fancy. But a real place, with a yard, a workshop out back, and enough bedrooms for the boys to each have their own space. I built a new garage on the property and moved Rust and Revival there. My business grew. My reputation grew. I hired 2 more mechanics and started offering weekend classes for teens who wanted to learn. Tessa, she tried to rally the family against me. It didn't work. Too many people had seen the truth. She stopped speaking to me altogether. Brent, his firm was quietly audited a few months after our showdown. I didn't have anything to do with that. At least, I don't think I did. And my mother? She called once. Left a voicemail saying she wanted to talk. I never called back. Some bridges aren't meant to be burned. Some were never bridges to begin with. Just fences you were taught to be grateful for. But now I build my own roads. And this time, I bring my boys with me. Every mile of the way.